Welcome to the Beltway Broadcast, the premier podcast for the workplace learning and talent development professionals of the Association for Talent Development's Metro DC chapter. We've got some great resources in store for you today.
Hello, fellow ATDers. I'm Stephanie Hubka, and I am the 2023 Vice President of Membership and Outreach, as well as a member of the Pod Squad here at the Metro DC chapter of ATD.
And I'm Christina Eanes, the 2023 Vice President of Marketing and Communications.
And we also have Halyna Hodges, our Vice President of Finance and Operations, as our producer. Chris, can you believe we have made it to the final episode of 2023?
Wow, it has been a year, hasn't it?
It really has been. And I guess I mean that in a couple of ways. I mean, a lot has happened this year. A lot of people have been much more out and about than we have been in the last couple of years. But I think here, within Metro DC ATD, we've had a really great year. And I think a big part of it has been because of the guests that we have had on this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been one of the most incredible journeys. I feel like every year, every season gets better and better. And in fact, that's kind of why we're here today. Our goal for today is to talk a little bit about some of the things that have stood out to us over the course of the last 12 months. As we do, and this I think has kind of become custom for us since we've had this podcast for quite a while now, we like to ask ourselves or consider a couple of sort of thematic questions just to sort of put our years into perspective. One thing we would love to request for all of you is that as we are asking each other questions, responding to questions, take a couple of moments and think about how you would answer these questions based on your experiences, your perspectives. And certainly, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know over on LinkedIn if you have anything you'd love to share as far as your reflections and how this year went for you. So, Chris, I feel like where we should start, believe it or not, I know I'm usually the one who comes in to some of our episodes, kind of asking the questions about, well, what about the other side of things, the devil's advocate role. So why don't we go ahead and start with one of my favorites? What have been some of the biggest challenges that you have faced this year?
Yeah, so this is by no means a complaint.
No complaints. That's fine.
By no means a complaint. But I have been tremendously busy.
I love that.
With business and with pleasure.
Yes.
So it's been quite chaotic. So I think my biggest challenge with everything on the task list, all the different projects and stuff, has been to stay focused.
I think that is... honestly, of all of the challenges you can have, that is a wonderful one to have.
Yeah.
Especially in light of everything that you've been up to.
Yeah. Well, both of us,
really,
right?
Yeah.
But there's a few episodes that I think really helped me when I started feeling myself being pulled away.
Yeah.
From being focused. And one of them in particular, and I read the book and I love it. It's Conscious Accountability. And that was with David Tate and Marianne Pantella.
Yeah.
So figuring out how to keep myself focused and accountable was very helpful. The other one was micro resilience with Bonnie St. John.
Yes. Oh, that was
so making sure.
Too.
Yes, it was great, right? And I loved she's a skier too, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
But building up that micro resilience so that we can stay focused. So folks, if you missed those, go check them out. And another one, absolutely, we just recently had, it was Intrinsic Motivation with Stefan Falk.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And I was just using this yesterday. I put myself in a state of flow. I got so much done and the time went by. I looked up and literally 4 hours had passed by and I realized, I need to eat lunch. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible. I mean, those are great observations.
Our guests are amazing. Yeah.
They really do inspire us, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So now what about you? What has been your biggest challenge?
In a way, you kind of stole part of what I was going to say. And no, I love that. I feel like, we're very in sync as far as what some of our challenges have looked like. There's one other challenge that I would share. And I think this is probably true for a lot of us and certainly reflected in some of the conversations we've had with our guests. And it's the concept of designing training or designing learning experiences for everyone. Over the last couple of years, conversations like accessibility and neurodiversity have really been a big part of what we're focused on. That idea that you want to design for everyone up front. You don't want to layer these things on top of an existing training. It's just not going to meet people where they are. It's not going to be inclusive. And one of the episodes that I think back on periodically, it was a guest we had, Beth McCormick, where we talked about neurodiversity. It was almost a year ago, I think, that we had that conversation with her. It really got me thinking about what it means to think about who is going to be benefiting from the learning experiences that you create. So I thought that was a wonderful conversation. And there were a couple of other aspects to that also kind of got me thinking. A little bit of a different angle on designing for everyone, but with the idea that you do want to make sure that people feel like they're benefiting, that they're having a good time, that, they can really, to use your word, focus. One of the other conversations we had was with Alex Suckman on games and play. That has really stood out to me over the last couple of months as something I want to really be more intentional about designing to and bringing to some of the experiences that I create.
I love that. Yeah, we had so many guests on this year in relation to, things that I didn't even think about. So I immediately started incorporating, and you don't know until you know.
That's it.
On even colors or how you present something so that visually impaired or hearing impaired and just keeping people engaged. It's been an amazing learning opportunity.
I feel like one of the best parts to being a part of this podcast is exactly that. It's that opportunity to listen to different perspectives, to really take that step back and think about whether or not what our guests are sharing is a practice that you have. Is it something that you do? And if not, could it be? How could you fit that in? I feel like one of the things I've been happiest about is the amount of growth I've been able to challenge myself to do just because of the people that we've talked to this year.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, well, and those actually were also, I know we cover my top 3 lessons or our top 3 lessons.
Yeah.
And I hope our listeners and viewers are thinking about yours as well. Do you have any more you'd like to add before we get to goals?
There's one other item I think that I would add, and this is definitely a behavior change for me as well. One of the lessons that I learned this year, something that's really struck me and kind of stuck with me since a conversation we had with Chris Coladinato a couple of months ago, the need and the opportunity to bring nature into your day. Chris talked to us a lot about a couple of different experiences. And in fact, I had the opportunity to join her on sort of a guided walk that she put together just for me. And I have to tell you, that practice of going outside, enjoying some sunlight has been incredible for my clarity. Again, to use the word focus, but, to really bring some of that into my day. So a lesson that I've learned is I really need to take the time to bring in the elements of my experience that are going to energize me and help me to feel as though I'm very present. And I think that what Chris shared has certainly been a lesson that I needed to take to heart.
Ooh, I might have to go take a little walk in nature after.
Highly recommend it.
This discussion.
I'm
feeling motivated.
Highly recommend it. And I'm actually going to mention one more thing too, before we talk a little bit more about some of our goals. And that is it's almost a look behind the scenes for how we develop our podcast. One of the things we often will joke about, but we take it very seriously, is the idea that we show up curious. So not to give too much of a peek behind the curtain, but typically the episodes that we record are fully unscripted. We don't show up with questions or anything like that for guests. What you get to hear are really these conversations that we're having. And bringing curiosity into my day has also been a big game changer. Really thinking about how I can insert that. For me, that has definitely improved the quality of the work that I do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say not just work, interactions.
Absolutely.
If someone gets maybe a little snippy with you.
Absolutely right.
Being curious about, I wonder what's going on.
I think you make a good point.
Yeah. Or anything, just being curious about anything that happens in our lives really changes our perspectives. Yeah. So I love that you brought that up, and we encourage our viewers and listeners to take that as far as it can go.
It's a great thing to build into your day. And I think for a lot of our chapter members, especially for all of our listening audience, it's probably something that you strive to do and, perhaps are really good at doing on a regular basis. So I guess as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, one thing we should talk about are our goals. I would love to hear yours first, Chris. Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking ahead to, what you can foresee happening for you in the coming year.
Oh, I love talking about goals.
I do too.
Because we need some direction, right?
We
need that little goal post or whatever flag in the distance to know, how we're growing and learning.
Absolutely.
And actually, I got my idea for my goals from several of our episodes.
Did you really?
I did. So one of them was a data story with Nancy Duarte.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was I love the conversation with her before and after and during the recording. And it really made me think, because one of my most popular courses are presentation skills.
Yes.
For my catalog with my company. Right. And I thought about, what I'm going to create based on that. So one goal is to create a whole series of courses. One, preparing for a presentation.
Yeah.
2, your presentation aids, delivering the presentation, advanced techniques, practice sessions, executive presentations. So I'm going to, based on that conversation, I got an idea to just flush out an entire series of courses that I've already got a client excited about it, and I'm ready to go. So that's goal 1.
Yep. I love that.
Is flushing out that part.
Love
the
that.
Other one was 2 Awesome Hours by, I think it was Josh Davis.
That was such a great episode.
Yes. He has a book of the same title. Mm-hmm. And I remember I interviewed him years ago for actually my Quit Bleeping Around podcast then. And it was a refresher, and it was a realization that I'm going to work based on, and a reminder, based on and kind of Stephen Falk's work on flow as well, right? With the internal motivation, intrinsic motivation. Yeah. So working based on flow, trying to get those 2 awesome hours that I can get as much done as possible, and then give myself permission to take a few more breaks throughout the day. So that's goal number 2, is to be a little more aware of that and use that more effectively. And then, like you had mentioned earlier, it's Alex Sukman on the games and stuff. So bringing more fun into, I already am quite a bit, but but bringing more fun into daily life at work and at home, and maybe more escape rooms as well.
Oh, good for you.
So those are my 3 main ones.
Good
What about you?
So I am actually, believe it or not, I thought about some goals in advance. I am changing them here on the fly. And you've inspired me to do it. Here's what I mean by that. I will share the first one with you. One of them was balance. I would love to achieve more balance in my life, more dedicated time for things like health and wellness, for walking outside, for really good, dedicated, high quality work. So all of the things that you might think of as being fulfilling, or, maybe even necessary in order to feel like you are operating at your best. But there are 2 other things that I'm going to challenge myself to do in the coming year, and they are very much connected to this podcast. The first, we have these incredible conversations with some of the best and the brightest in our field, and even beyond our field, on a regular basis. Halyna, our producer, is incredible at helping to connect all of us to these, just amazing insights. My challenge to myself, the first one, is to find something within each one of the episodes that I'm going to take action on. A lot of times we hear wonderful tips, and they're really not challenging, as far as figuring out how you might do them. Many people have offered us first steps, small steps, things that you might be able to do today or tomorrow or next week. I'd like to start prioritizing those. So that would be my second goal. And my third one, we ask 3 rapid fire questions at the end of every one of our episodes. And one of them, I think probably my favorite in a way, is, what should we all read? I'm going to create a reading list. And I am actually going to find, again, with my balance, dedicated time to start working through many of these great books that have been recommended to us over the years.
I love that. I've been adding to my Amazon wish list
too.
almost every episode.
I have too. And the challenge for me is finding the time to get through some of them without going back to reread some of the favorites that we hear. Because sometimes we hear these books and it's like, oh, that was such a good one. It's been a year. I got to go back. I really want to start to build my list based on what they're sharing with us, but not just build that list. I want to start working through that list. So those are mine. Those are my 3 goals for the coming year.
I love it.
And I hope that also gives everybody an opportunity to think about what your goals might look like too. You never know. It could be episodes within this podcast that are going to inspire you to find something that's going to be great in 2024.
Ooh, maybe someone can start a Beltway Broadcast book club where they read whatever the week's guest.
Oh my goodness. Shoot, let us know if that would be something you'd want to do. You know, I would sign up for that. That would be really fun.
There we go.
So yeah, you can see great ideas popping up all the time within Metro DC ATD. So I know we're just about at the point where we should wrap up, return everybody to their days. But one thing that's also become a little bit of a year-end tradition for us is the idea of picking one word to summarize the year that we are closing out. So I'm going to double that challenge for you, Chris. I'm going to ask if you can think of one word that you would use to summarize 2023 and perhaps maybe set an expectation word for 2024. What do you think? And I feel like this is rapid fire. What do you think? Are you up to the challenge?
I love it. Our rapid fire. Yes,
it is.
I am. And I'm going to, like many of our guests, I'm going to surpass the one.
Yeah. Good for you.
And provide more.
Thank you. That's a tradition.
There we go. So for 2023, I think the first word that comes to mind is chaotic.
Ooh, yeah, that's fair.
Yes. But that sounds, I mean, that can have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And to me, in this case, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I want to say chaotic and fulfilling.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then for 2024, I want to say gratitude because I'm so grateful for all of the connections, the friendships through ATD, the business, clients, home life, all of that, just gratitude across the board.
Yeah. I love those words.
Okay. What about you?
I know. It's always that tough part where you turn the tables and it's like, oh,
I know.
You know, it's funny. As I was thinking about this, the word that came to mind for me was also chaotic. And I'm not going to steal it from you, but just know we're very much in sync. No, you know what I'm going to pick? I'm going to go with deluge. It has occasionally felt like this year was crashing over me, if that made sense. And I mean that in all of the best ways, with work, with, you know, the opportunity to be part of this podcast, with chapter leadership.
Travel.
Oh, certainly the travel. And stay tuned. I'm going to mention something about that in just a second. But it's really...
and deluge with a wave over your ship.
Which
no,
you know, you make... it's now I'm going to have to tell that story, aren't I? Deluge has really been very representative of what it's felt like to be here. And it's also felt like a big blessing in a lot of ways because it has been a really great year for me. I've been very happy and very, you know, excited about a lot of the things I've been working on. So yeah, I think deluge is certainly what this year has felt like in retrospect. But since you mentioned the boat and the waves, the word I am going to use for 2024, I actually learned while I was on the trip in question. I spent a week on a boat that kind of hugged the coast of Greenland. This was a, you know, kind of a vacation trip for me. It was really fun. I got a chance to go with my husband, my parents, some of my family. We had a wonderful time. And on the way from Greenland back to Iceland, which is where we were heading off to the airport, we ended up in a huge storm in the North Atlantic Ocean that had 60-foot waves that kind of like crashed over the boat.
Ooh,
now,
a real deluge.
It was a genuine deluge. It was a rocky couple of days. But one of the things that we had a chance to do while we were on the boat is listen to presentations. So something I absolutely loved about this experience, we had people, they were experts in their fields. They studied geology and culture and, you know, archaeology, all of these different aspects of what it means to kind of be part of this planet. And during one of the presentations, one of them used a German word, and I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but I think I am. The word is Dasein. Dasein, it's a German word for existence. And the idea is that it means belonging to a place, being there, and focusing on your authentic self. I really connected with that word. In fact, I took a photo of the slide that it was on so I wouldn't forget that word. And I've thought a lot about what it means and also what it means to me. And I think that that is a goal of mine for 2024. I think that's what I'd like my word to be, figuring out how I can best live within my authentic self. So a very long story to get to a very short word, but that's I think where I would leave it, Dacian.
Oh, I love it.
So
that's amazing.
You never know what you're going to get. And of course, I hope this gave you a chance too to think about what words you might use. How would you describe 2023 if you were to think back on it and choose, maybe 2 words? We clearly struggle with boundaries here. We're not going to make you either. And think too about what 2024 might look like for you. I mean, we are just at the beginning. I hope it's going to be a great year for all of us. I have a feeling it probably is.
Absolutely. And we are going to bring you a more amazing guest booked by our amazing producer, Halyna Hodges.
Yes, it will be a phenomenal year of learning for all of us. And, I know, Chris, for both of us, I think we have been so excited, so blessed to be part of this experience with all of you, to have all of you joining us, whether you are watching on our YouTube channel, whether you're listening through some of our, the other channels where you might find your favorite podcast. We're really grateful to have you as part of the community. So thank you for making 2023 as fantastic as it was. Thank you for being part of our community, both local and beyond the DC area. We know we've got a lot of people around the world now who are joining us week after week. And we hope that your 2023 has been phenomenal. Your 2024 is even better. And of course, before we go, we do have a message from our producer, Halyna Hodges.
Are you a member of the Metro DC chapter of ATD? We have resources just for you. Go to dcatd.org and select the members-only section of resources to access our digital library, member directory, and chapter documents.
Love this episode? Make sure to subscribe to the podcast and provide a review.